Hello, everybody. All right. I will just get all of our filmmakers here, so bear with me a moment. Jay coming in, Scott's coming in, and Valerie. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, it's so exciting when it all works so smoothly. All right, so welcome to Filmocracy Fest and to our Q&A session for the shorts program Broken Pieces. We're happy to have all our filmmakers here to join us today to share some of the insights on making their films. Thank you all again for giving us the opportunity to present your amazing films to their audience and joining us today. So everyone here, we've got Tessa from Pizza Party, we've got Jay and Scott from Vertical Farming, and we've got Valerie from Girl in the Hallway. So again, welcome again. Let's just start off one by one and tell us a little bit about yourself and what influenced you to tell this story. So maybe we'll start with Valerie and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I am Valerie, and I am a visual artist living in Ottawa, Canada. And I decided I love poetry, so I came across Jamie Dewolfe, who is this award-winning slam poet. Came across him on YouTube, and after I heard this performance, I was like, oh my God, this has to be made a movie. And then after I got his blessing, I basically was just like, all right, I have to learn how to make a movie. And so I figured out how to animate while I was making this movie at the same time. And here we are.
Wow. Yeah, it's incredible animation as well. So to just learn that is quite the feat in and of itself. Tessa, would you want to kind of just tell you a little bit about yourself and why you told the story?
Yeah. So I am an actor by trade. This is actually a first-time filmmaker now. Pizza Party was the spawn of a homework assignment for my final year of MFA acting training at USC. It was a filmmaking for actors class taught by Jean Gallerano, who also plays Max in the film. And we were tasked to write a one-location 10 to 15 page short. And we were going to shoot them in class. And Jean actually came up to me and was like, no. Like, you're a filmmaker. You're going to make this movie and I'm going to help you. So that's kind of how it came to pass. But in terms of the themes, I am a sexual assault survivor. It is something that I talk a lot about in my other narrative work. And that has always been kind of the crux of what I write about. And it was kind of right on the coattails of the Larry Nassar trials. And I had been listening to Believed, the podcast on Michigan radio through NPR. And it kind of just came at this beautiful apex moment of being in the class, having the Nassar trials really permeating in my mind, and then being so personally connected with it. So yeah, that's how it kind of came to pass.
Okay. Yeah, great. Wow. Jay, do you want to maybe speak, and then Scott, we can follow with you?
Yeah, sure thing. So, yeah, I'm Jay, and basically, Scott and I both are video producers, and so I've been a freelance video producer for a long time, and so we really had a lot of topics that we were really interested. We do documentary-ish productions for a lot of different organizations, but we were both really, I think, interested in taking on something that we really was just an interest, that was something that was personal to us, and for me that's always been about, I'm interested in kind of approaching like world problems less from a raising awareness of how bad a problem is angle, and more from who are the people that are doing things to bring about solutions, or to make a better future possible for us, because there are, and their stories aren't necessarily being shared. And so that this was one that just really stood out to us. And so, and there's more, there's a lot of stories, people that are doing really cool things that people just don't know about. And when I learn about it, I get really excited. And so I just want to, share that with as many people as possible. And there's a limit to me talking at people, how many people I can share cool things with. So we made a film.
Yeah, amazing. Scott, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. So I actually have a background in documentary filmmaking. I was very fortunate to work for a nonprofit for a number of years where my job was as a documentary producer. And that was awesome. And I made a few films, one on the intersection of American energy policy and foreign policy called Blood and Oil, one on racism and white privilege called White Like Me, and then a number of other ones. But then left that job a few years ago, started my own company and doing like work like Jay was talking about. And it was about a year ago, I guess, a little bit more, that Jay and I were working on a shoot together, and he said, "Hey, I have this idea. Do you want to make a short documentary about it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And so we did. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it's great to hear. Great to hear. So all of these shorts, of course, kind of have amazing, good calls to action for our audiences and messages to get across. Can maybe each of you speak to the message that you did hope to kind of get across to our audiences? Valerie, if you'd like to start.
When we're talking about a genocide like murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirited, I feel like a lot of the problem with this genocide is that we're not talking about it. And we collectively, society is not talking about it, because like I think people like grassroots organizations are talking about it. Indigenous people are definitely talking about it, but it's just something that is not in the forefront. And I just kind of want to have that call to action in that sense of like, if you see something and you're not doing anything about it, you're not saying anything about it, you're very much part of the problem. And that is what we're learning from with Jamie's mistake, where he was just sort of minded his own business, and this insanity played out in front of him. And he wasn't even aware it was an MMIW case till like I pointed it out to him, because is Indigenous. So I feel like it's applicable to a lot of things right now, and I feel like that's what's important. I just want my audience to think about like what they would have done in the situation, and like situations that they've been in the past where they could have acted differently, or like what they're going to do in the future if they were to see something. And that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe, of course, I definitely believe that kind of message came across in your film, and as well as kind of fellow Canadian, just kind of talking about Indigenous stories and just education-wise is something that isn't really spoken about. So I would definitely need those stories to be told. Tessa, would you kind of like to talk about the message and the call to action of your film?
Yeah. I think ultimately, and like the macro level, it's about solidarity. It's about, courage in numbers. And I think that that's just applicable to I think that that's what is transcendent about the film, which is really exciting. And it seems like people are really receiving that. But ultimately, I think the big thing for me in making it was I really wanted to tell a story where we had 3-dimensional sexual assault survivors, where it wasn't, traditionally we see these narratives are very anemic. It's very sad, it's very dark, and it's usually a very thin young white woman, and it's like a very specific image of what the survivor is. And the survivors are funny and they're complex, and we lie about our assaults and we don't talk about it, and we do, and we have needs and wants, and we are fully realized people. And we don't get to see that a lot when we watch films that talk about sexual assault and trauma. So that was something like ultimately for me personally that I was really, really hoping that audiences would take away, and the message, one of the undercurrents of the film.
Again, also so important. And speaking to what you're saying, it is refreshing to kind of see a different perspective in that sense. And to have some humility, to have a little bit of lighter moments rather than kind of that really heavy, what it is such a heavy subject matter. So yeah, Jay and Scott, maybe could you speak to the issues in your film?
Yeah, I mean, I think with documentary, it's so much, the answer of like, the takeaway or the call to, I mean, it's so much more out there front and center. But, I think maybe if you were to get to the spirit of it, when we interviewed Dr. Dixon Despommier, who was, a key part of the film, and he wrote the book that really was the inspiration of the film. He told us this story that I feel like really resonated with Scott and I, and was kind of like an inspiration for what we wanted to do. And he was a former Columbia University professor, and he started off a class at one point with his group of graduate students, and he just had them write a simple one-page essay of what they expected to see in the next 50 years. And across the board, they generally said, we expect to see more income disparity, less access to healthcare, climate change, and a number of things. And you said, okay, well, that was pretty consistent. So let's do another one page on what you would like to see in the future. What would you like to see in the next 50 years? And it was a completely different story. It was the exact opposite. It was better access to healthcare and more opportunity and more equity and and so he looked at it and just said, okay, so to hell with the future you expect. We're just going to work on the future we want. And that was sort of the goal. And then it was just an engineering approach to how do we solve all of these human problems, because there's like an unwillingness to accept that these human problems aren't susceptible to engineering solutions. And I think that's really what I would love for everyone in every sphere, whatever type of social problem that they're working against, whether it's something that's really nuts and bolts like environmental issues, or whether it's something that relates to social justice, is for us to take this mindset of, okay, it's a problem, we can take problems apart, so there has to be a way. And so that's really what I would love to carry forward with any project that I work on.
Yeah, definitely. And it is a fascinating subject that I didn't know anything about either in terms of vertical farming. So it's very informative and educational in that sense. Scott, would you like to maybe just add anything to that?
Yeah, just a touch, I guess. I think, yeah, like what Jay's kind of one of the things I feel like he was saying was, and maybe said before, was a lot of documentary just focus on the issues, the problems. I mean, I feel like almost kind of similar to what Tessa was talking about in terms of survivor stories. And in terms of those types of documentaries, I mean, I've made some of them, and there's real value to them, I hope. I think it was exciting to us to kind of like flip that script as well and say, let's focus on solutions. Let's focus on people who are devoting their lives to something that probably a lot of people will look at them and say, that's not worth it. That's too far off. That's not going to go anywhere, type of thing. But that they are persevering through that and continuing because they believe in it. And can we highlight some of those stories? Can we kind of show a path forward in the hopes that maybe there will be more people who will take similar paths, whether it comes to agriculture, whether it comes to the many other issues that we have. I mean, specifically with climate change, but really anything else. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Just switching gears a little bit to the actual filmmaking process. Can maybe you guys speak to something that you learned during the filmmaking process? Tessa, I know you spoke about it was a student project, and Valerie, you were learning kind of things about animation, and Scott and Jay kind of experienced and maybe some things that you learned today you want to take to your next project. So maybe Valerie, do you want to speak first on
that? One thing I think the biggest lesson I learned was that I was only limited by my artistry, not my budget. So I working with what I had around me and working like simplifying everything. So simplification is really complicated and it's quite sophisticated. So just having to simplify everything, like and I feel like I came up with some really clever solutions to ideas, and so I feel like that me forward in my next productions, knowing that it's the artistry that you put behind it. At that point, no one really cares about the budget and your production value.
Mm. Yeah. So did you have any kind of animation background before, or?
No.
Incredible. That is really incredible. Yeah, it's just something that is, really stands out in your film. That is a very incredible thing. Tessa, did you want to maybe speak of something that you learned as a class project?
Well, to piggyback on Valerie, I will say you can learn anything on Google. I pretty much learned how to line a script, stuff I had covered because I'm an actor. I was really confident in that. But like, all the technical language, I had a great DP, Demi Waldron, who was amazing. But really, like, you fake it till you make it was my big lesson. But in seriousness, I think the biggest thing that I learned, and the reason why I want to continue as a director moving forward, is because I learned that you can, as an actor, I've been on a lot of sets on television and film, and I didn't realize that you could create a incredibly nurturing, soft, gentle environment that feels safe, where everyone feels like they have a say in the way that this piece is shaping. The first thing I did when I got there kind of impulsively was basically sit everybody down and say, if you feel triggered, if you feel uncomfortable, we will stop. There's no amount of money in the world. There's no amount of time or creative vision in the world that comes before your mental health, comes before your well-being. And I think just setting that tone, that was a big thing I feel like I learned as an artist, is that those spaces need to be created and fostered by the leadership in the room, and that there's plenty of space and plenty of opportunities, plenty of time to do that. So I really, that's something that I will very much carry with me as I continue to make work.
Yeah, definitely. And as a filmmaker, a director, and I'm sure the actors definitely appreciate it, kind of having that safe space. And it is something that when you're dealing with subject matter, even when you're dealing with other subject matters, just being able to collaborate and feel safe on set is really important.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Jay and Scott, maybe something that you guys learned that maybe you'll take to your next project.
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, throughout the production process, I learned so many things. I like, and one of my main goals of working on this project was to learn. And so I actually have like a notebook full of things just like that I learn. Every time I learn something, I write it down so I don't forget it.
Nice.
But I would say like, and this is sort of a variation to your question, but like the thing that I'm actually learning right now is less from the production process and from the from participating in film festivals, and in this festival in particular. It's actually been a really cool learning experience because I shoot and edit videos all the time, and so but I give them to a client and then that's done. I don't go and participate in these community events and sit down with other people who are making their films and learn from them. And that's been a really cool thing, because the first time you do it, you're guessing a little bit about, well, I think maybe it'll go this way. But then every time you speak with another filmmaker and you hear their story, and where their story came from and the process of their production, you just have more context to it. And the biggest thing I think I would take away, if you had to kind of put it in a nutshell, is like success can look different for any given film, and it really comes down to, why did you make the film? And knowing that from the beginning of a project, really being able to think through an answer like, well, why do I care about this? Why do I want to make this story? Is going to really determine how do I know if it's successful or not. And there's a lot of different things that you can gain from participating in a festival like this. But for me, it's just been that context and that insight and just learning from it. So it's an ongoing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kind of just learning, even hearing you guys speak, just everyone kind of collaborating and listening to each other. It's the best way to kind of move forward and kind of take to your next project as well. So it's, very valuable. I'm happy that you're kind of experiencing that at this festival as well. Scott, maybe something that you've learned. I know you kind of spoke that you've had a lot of documentary backgrounds as well. So maybe something else that you plan on bringing to your next project.
Yeah, I think for me, it's, most of my projects that I've worked on, like the nonprofit I worked on, was very small, and we had there was 5 people that worked in production. We would be doing 7 or 8 projects at a time. So everyone was pretty siloed, actually. And now doing client work for the last few years, I end up taking on, the most of the roles. And the thing that fuels me, and maybe part of my motivation, is just going through the withdrawals of human interaction from year-long pandemic, but is that collaboration, is when you have an idea for something and you're working with someone else and their idea is better or elevates things or takes it in a direction that you didn't necessarily anticipate. I mean, some of my favorite stuff from Vertical, Jay was a DP on the film, and as well as a co-director, and there's a sequence in there that's a time-lapse sequence that was all in his head. That I really, he kind of told me about it, and I was like, cool, sounds good. I'm looking forward to seeing it, And then he executed it, and another colleague of ours worked on it too, and I just marvel at it. I couldn't do that. But so it's things like that I want to definitely in continue in my future work to create spaces, hopefully for, Jay and I worked on this together. We co-directed it, but if there are other times where, there are people, I want to bring in other people, I want to bring in other voices and let those voices be, flourish as best as it can. A director has to kind of steer the ship, but to let those ideas kind of come in so that the project can be the best that it can be. Because I recognize that if it was just me all the time, it's not going to be. It'll be missing something. So I think that's
Yeah, he's right about that, because I'm terrible to work with.
Yeah,
so yeah, I'm off.
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
Very funny. Yeah, it's just adding to what you're saying, Scott, kind of just checking the ego at the door, and also Tessa just creating that safe space so filmmakers, that we can collaborate together and kind of make the best project, because you all have the same goal in mind. We're kind of ending our time here, but maybe we have another kind of question that we can add to it. In terms of kind of future for you guys as filmmakers, do you have kind of what plans going forward to maybe have another short that's happening, or planning on making a feature? Maybe each of you could speak to that. Maybe Valerie would like to go first.
Yeah, I'm with NFB now, and I am working on a short animated comedy, and about these monsters with love problems in hell, and so I'm having a lot of fun. So it's a very different vibe than Girl in the Hallway, and I'm happy about that. So yeah,
animated or
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Same style, something different?
Something different. It's going to be 2D animation, and it's in the style of Dore's etchings.
Okay, cool. That sounds very interesting. We'll have to follow you and see what you get up to.
Yeah, so just go on Girl in the Hallway on Instagram, and that will eventually filter into the new project.
Perfect. Actually, also would just say, just so we don't cut off the time, is there any other kind of resources or anything that we can donate as audiences to the issues in your film?
Yeah, I go onto my website. I have for US as well as Canadian First Nations organizations that are vetted by First Nations people. So so with Indigenous issues, it's really pick a direction and go. It's all going to cycle back into each other. So they're all like good organizations. So those links will be on my website. That's Girl in the Hallway movie.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much. Tessa, would you like to speak about it?
Yeah, so I'm actually in pre-production-ish writing process. It's very different film, but similar statement short that I'm making about white female complicity in the time of contemporary American racism is seen through a like Karen moment. And I'm writing that with a co-writer, one of my dear friends, Bacola Ogunmola. And we are developing that now. We're actually doing our first read of it, our table read tomorrow, and we're gonna hopefully shoot that in the new year. And we're really excited. It's a musical. Just to throw a little hint.
Whoa,
musical about a dark musical about racism. It'll be.
I love it. I already love it. Is it going to be a short?
It is a short. It is a short. Yeah. And my hope is that, and the goal with that too, as a director, is I want to shoot something a little bit more visual than Pizza Party. It's a lot less dialogue. It's going to be very much a visual piece, many more locations. So that'll be a really good test of the skill set. And then in terms of Pizza Party stuff, one thing I did not say that I think is really important is that there's a lot of conversation around this film and Title IX in conjunction with Title IX. And as many people know, Betsy DeVos completely gutted Title IX policies this year, making it really hard for people to report and be supported when they report sexual assault and sexual violence on college campuses and in extracurricular activities and, athletic environments like the Olympic gymnastics team. So I would say if you're interested in learning about that conversation, it's really, really, really important. And it actually is very, very politically relevant right now and kind of hidden under a lot of the other social conversations and COVID. But it has been getting completely gutted. And it is an incredibly, incredibly important piece of legislation. So
definitely.
Title IX. Yeah.
Do you have any social media links or anything that we can follow to keep in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow, we're pizzapartyfilm.com. You can follow us on Instagram. I am Tessa Hope Slovis on Instagram. And then the film is, I believe, Pizza Party Short Film on Instagram. And you'll be able to get all the information, screening stuff, and follow what I'm up to next, because hopefully there will be another film soon.
Perfect. Yeah. Yes. Very exciting. Jay, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm nearing the end of another short doc that started out as a quarantine project for me. During the midst of quarantine, when we couldn't really go out or film anything or do anything, in Washington State, we had an invasion of Asian giant hornets, which you may have heard about. They made a lot of news coverage. And they were called murder hornets. This is not their proper name, but there was a lot of media frenzy. But the reality is that they're actually a really big risk to our pollinators. So our honeybees, which are like bedrock to our food supply and our ecosystem. And so I'm finishing up a short doc on the scientists that are working to contain this species and the crazy technology that they are using to do it, because they're inventing things that never existed before, like tiny radio trackers that they put on a hornet and let it go so they can track where the nest is and things like that. So that is tentatively called The Hunt for the Murder Hornets, and it should be wrapped up soon.
Very interesting. That sounds fascinating. I will definitely check that out. Scott, what about yourself?
Jay was very nice to show me an early cut of, which I'm sure it's changed quite a bit since then, but it was awesome. So it's gonna be really cool. I'm working on an audio series, a podcast series that's kind of investigative journalism, about I don't know what to say. I'm going to skip that, but that is intense, something that I'm doing. And then I'm starting development on a feature-length documentary on something that I know very little about, but have been asked to join in on, which is what is called kind of the next internet or the metaverse. So I'm kind of in the learning process of that right now, trying to catch up and learn as much as I can, and been doing informational interviews with folks. And yeah.
Very cool. It sounds intriguing. Definitely. Well, thank you guys all for joining me. We're just at the end of our time here right now. But yeah, thanks again, and for talking about your films and everything that impacted and influenced these amazing shorts. And we wish you all the best, and to hope to see you over the course of the festival. And to our audience, thank you for joining us for the Q&A shorts of Broken Pieces. Be sure to vote. Bye for now.
Thanks, Aaron.